Hello, I'm Derek Campbell, and today we're going to be talking about Superman, Red Sun. Now, this story differs a lot from other Superman stories in that Superman was born in Russia. Well, not born, but landed in Russia as opposed to Kansas, where he was raised with the ideals of Ma and Pa Kent. Instead, he was raised in a collective farm, and not much is said about his ideals, except that he was keeping his powers kind of under lock and key until he met Stalin, who encouraged him to be the Superman that the country needs. And throughout the story, he decides he's going to shape the world of communism throughout the world. I don't know if you can hear the guy weed whacking outside, but he had to stop. So we have this situation where Superman's spreading ideology around the world as opposed to letting people decide the correct path they should take, as Superman usually is. Here we see a Superman that's more concerned about doing what's right no matter the cost, as opposed to doing what's right because it's what's right. In previous Superman stories, Superman only does what he's able to in his power, and it just goes to show that no one person can do everything. And here again, we see that Superman tries to rule in communism, but he can't quite do it because there's no way to achieve it through peace. He has to use mental controls, which brings me to my first question of the relationship between Superman and Lex Luthor, which is portrayed by this bear. Usually we see Superman on the right side of the conflict, being above ethics and doing what's right, and Lex Luthor selfishly always trying to beat Superman because he wants to prove that he's better. Here, we see a more situation where they kind of meet in the middle, whereas Superman wants to do the right thing, but he's doing the wrong methods by enslaving people mentally and not allowing them free will because his way is right. Clearly, he's proven that. And Lex Luthor, who wants to beat Superman and is doing the right things by freeing his people, making their economy better, but he's doing it for the wrong reason. The reason he makes his country better is because Superman. He wants to beat Superman. So in a way, they're the same as they've always been, but instead now they're more in the middle. Meet in the middle. So what do we think of the Lex Luthor and Superman relationship in this book, of Superman doing the wrong things for what he thinks is the right reason, and Lex Luthor doing the right things for the wrong reason? Like, how does that flip the idealism of superheroes on their head, where the villain typically is doing the right thing, but for the wrong reasons? Secondly, what do we make of the fact that all these heroes seem to be Russian in descent now? Is Superman, like, what are they trying to say about Superman being the ideal? Because Superman is now in Russia, so that suddenly means Batman is now in Russia. What do we think about Batman being in Russia? He's still staunchly opposed to Superman's way of doing things and believes the alien, as they call him sometimes, should not be allowed to have free reign. What do we think of the random heroes appearing in different ways, such as Luthor inventing the Phantom Zone? But specifically, what do we make of Batman appearing in Russia? Finally, I have some questions about the ending. In the ending, we discover that Superman was not from Krypton. He was, in fact, from Russia, sent back in time to be in Russia. What do we make of the cyclical nature of this ideal? Is it just that perfection is impossible to attain, and cyclical nature means Superman will always be trapped in his idealistic cycle and never be able to fully achieve what he wants? Is it foolish for Superman to believe that he can solve all the problems? I know, buddy, it sucks. But is it impossible for Superman to achieve the level of peace that he wants? Because he's manipulated by Brainiac through this, and it just ends with a time loop. So what do we make of that ending, where Superman is sent back in time? Is it showing that his idyllic world is impossible? Or is it just showing that events are cyclical, and no matter what happens, empires rise and fall, no matter how good or bad they may seem. And despite Lex Luthor advancing things as he did, everything will still fall apart one day. That each man has their ideal, and no matter how much they intertwine and perfect it, they'll never be able to achieve what they want. Because idealism is great, but it doesn't necessarily work perfectly. Anyway, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.